Okay, we have 2 coats of polyurethane Minwax on this. I'm going to sand it now with some 240, speed it up a little bit. You are seeing some wobble on the one end. That's because of how it was turned. Now I'm using a red scuff pad to get into the nooks and crannies. End grains will always have more just open pores. You can see some right here probably. You can see the white in there. That's actually dust in the open pores because that's end grain. The same with over here. So now I'm going to blow it out and mix up some epoxy and we shall be back. Okay, we have mixed some epoxy. It is Aluminite Quick Coat. On the end, I'm going to be very thin with it because on corners it likes to build up. I'm going to be a little heavier in here because this is where I'm going to have to worry most about end grain. This is just basically to seal it off. Working it in. Getting a little bit up around the edge here. Getting a little bit in this groove. Now we're going to work on the end here. Like I say, I'm going to be pretty sparse with it here. On the lathe bottom or top, I have plastic sign material to protect getting any product on the lathe itself. If anybody decides to do something like this. Used about an ounce of mixed resin. This is a pretty small one. Took a little excess off here. We don't want that running down onto our end. You can kind of see it pooling up where you have excess. Taking a little more off here, putting a smaller finger in there since I have big paws. Just removing any large drops. They like to form at the sharper edges. Okay, let me turn it back on. I'm going to grab my heat gun. Getting a little bit of air out of the end, which is not unnormal. Once we sand this coat, that will be gone. It actually comes out of the wood, but it's looking good. I'll give it one more hit with the heat gun. We might eliminate some of them in about 5 minutes. I do have a heat lamp hitting this. If you look here, I'll show you. My shop temp is about 69 degrees, which for North Dakota in the winter is pretty warm. And now I'm at 92.8 is what the actual spindle is at. That will help cure it. I have had issues with products not curing properly. They claim because the shop is too cold. Who knows? But anyway, we will let this cure and we will come back. Okay, we're going to sand this now. Speed this up a bit. Basically, we're just denitting it, giving our next coat of product a little bit of a scratch to adhere to. We wouldn't have to put this coat of epoxy on, but it does make for a smoother finish, which does show a little nicer and seal it off for the next coat. This is some 400. The edges tend to get a little bit of air bubbles coming through. that just need to be flattened down a little bit. It's not really from the epoxy, it is from the wood. The wood has long pores in it that are full of air. I'm just kind of rolling it around, looking for any defects that I want to remove. This is the area that had some pretty good pores from the wood, from the end grain. This side didn't turn out as bad, but it's full now. It's looking good. Same here, see if you can see that or not. But there's a certain amount of roughness around there where we've got end grain. And the same here. I'm just hitting that edge. I don't want to remove all the epoxy, of course. I'm not looking to make it glass smooth. Because, I mean, we are dealing with something that isn't glass to start with. Got a pretty good air pocket right there I'm sanding out. That's the one I mentioned earlier. We're still a little fresh, so I have to be careful about clogging the paper and having that get onto the epoxy, but I like doing that because our next products will adhere better than if it was fully cured. We're sitting at about 2 hours, 2.5. Like I said, this is quick set. And now I'm taking a red scuff pad. I'm going to turn this on. And just go over the whole thing lightly with that. This will get in the nooks and crannies a little bit better. And we're ready to blow it off and start the next phase. I'm just going to run lightly over this again. Basically, we just want to degloss it lightly and remove any nibs or air pockets that are here. But everybody has their own goal. On some projects, you may want to make it perfectly flat. then you may have to get different equipment out, different sandpaper. Okay, next phase. Okay, we're going to start with some black base coat. This is an automotive base coat. We want to shake it really good. When you do receive one of these, you actually receive another tip also, an extra tip. This bottle can is probably a year old, so I mean it's not like it goes bad. And I'm just going to put 2 light coats on it. Replace this cap. Ah, my finger's in the way. Sometimes my big paws do that. You're going to let that flash. Come back and give that another coat. For what it's worth, we are going to be using our Chameleons. Magenta Sunrise Chameleon. And Molten Lava Chameleon. These are both base coats. They can have clear coat put on them. They can have epoxy put on them. Pretty much whatever you want. And I'm going to let this flash for about 10 minutes. And I'm going to throw another coat on it. And we'll be back. Okay, we're back at it. We do not need to give it any sanding between coats. I'm going to particularly try to stay on the edges. And there we go. Let it flash and we will hit it for the next color. Okay, we've got the black on. I'm going to go with Molten Lava next. We're going to fade the bottom. You get very fast coverage with this. You can put on as much or as little as you want, basically. Now we're doing magenta sunrise. Okay, and in about 15 minutes we can put on some epoxy. Okay, we are now going to put epoxy on. On this part, I'm just going to be clear epoxy. This part will be plum crazy. I'm sorry. This side will be plum fire. Chameleon. Just a dab. What I want to do is give it like a ghosting over what is already there. I do not want to cover it. So here we go. I'm going to do the clear first. I generally hit it with a heat gun, just knock any air bubbles out of it. We don't want it too heavy. I'll probably be wiping a little bit of this off before we're done. And this has the plum fire in it. You can see it's pretty transparent. I would say there's probably about 1/10 of a gram in there. This stuff goes a long ways. We're going to start rotating it. Notice it gives it a different hue, but it doesn't overshadow it too much. taking a little excess off. Throwing a little heat on it. And let's let that spin for a while. And we will throw some more heat on it in a few minutes, and hopefully call it good.